This show is sponsored by Realtor Cynthia Bear, Putting Down Roots. Visit your in-town real estate specialist in Atlanta at cynthiabaer.com.
You are now tuned in to the Good Gracious Show. Welcome.
Howdy, Good Gracious family. It is Monday, October 29th, and this is episode 118 of the Good Gracious Show. And I'm your host and gravelly-voiced guy, Boyd Baker. I am glad you're here today. We are looking at a fall, which is turning into be quite pleasant. And the stories just keep on coming. So on this episode, I sat down with Adam Klein. Well, let me back up a second. First off, this episode is just weirdly kind of karmic, kismet. I don't know what the best word would be, but talking to two people totally unrelated that both have a connection with Africa from here in Atlanta, Georgia. Very, very curious. So it's a Africa-centric story. If you have any curiosity about that great continent, I highly suggest you listening to the things, the way that continent and those countries have gotten into the hearts of these folks. So it's really pretty fascinating. One is a singer-songwriter and an actor, and the other is Sarah Buchanan-Sasson of the Kula Project. So both of them have some really great stuff going on, and a lot of little side shoots too. But they're some really fabulous people. So I think you are going to like this episode tremendously, just like the other ones. But either way, enjoy.
Adam Klein. I'm a singer-songwriter. If I were asked what kind of stuff I do, I guess I would say I do folk rock, Americana music. And also I have a project that is inspired and influenced by Mande music of West Africa, specifically Mali. So I have one album that was recorded in Mali, in the capital Bamako, and it features traditional Mande instrumentation, like the kora, which is the West African harp, and the ngoni, predecessor to the banjo, spike lute, and calabash drums and other such things. And I do perform on occasion with a project here in Georgia, mainly under my Malian name, Lasna Kuyate, and we do that material. So I do the music stuff, and also I do acting here in Atlanta. I like to say I take auditions. But yeah, I've taken some classes, and I hope to take some more classes soon.
So that's a lot. That's a lot of package, man.
I have
a lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah, some irons in the fires. And we're on a podcast now. I do a podcast.
Nice.
That is quarterly.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, I bet, right?
Yeah.
Should be palatable.
Yeah.
Of course, in 2018, I had to combine the spring and summer one. But,
it was a special double issue.
Oh, yeah. It was the shortest one, and it was a special double issue. But it's neat, and that's related to Mali. There's an organization called African Sky, founded by an anthropologist named Scott Lacey, who used to teach here at Emory, actually, in Atlanta, and now teaches at Fairfield University in Connecticut. He is a former Peace Corps volunteer in Mali, and he founded this organization, and does a lot of great grassroots, community-based efforts. And so, the podcast, I'm the community arts program director, I guess. And what I do with that basically is the podcast. Yeah. And so, the goal of the podcast is one of the goals of the organization is to be a bridge to build friendships and connections between Mali and the U.S. and, beyond, the West. And so, with the podcast, we want to both introduce, and also for maybe a non-lay person, folks who are familiar with Mali, we want to provide content to them to learn, to further their learning and understanding, about Mali, the people, the place, the culture, the history, the music, the arts, and of course development, what's happening, what has happened in terms of development in Mali, the work of African Sky, the organization, what they're doing. So,
what's the name of the podcast?
It's called the African Sky Podcast.
Well, there you go.
There I go.
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting. We all have little hobbies and stories and side shoots, and that's something that doesn't easily jump into the mind to go, oh, I bet that guy's from the Peace Corps and really has this love of Mali.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but you know what? The folks that you would meet that have gone to Mali will likely have, a really strong love of Mali.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think it is? What is?
Oh, it's the culture. It's the people. It's very playful. It's very social.
Have you been to other African countries as well? And you say, oh man, this isn't Mali.
Well, I've lived in Mali and I've traveled through other places. In West Africa and one summer in Uganda. And a family trip to South Africa, which is very exciting, but a lot different.
Yeah.
I think that there are some probably, I would need to know. I would need to have a better understanding of the structure of other societies, of other places and countries in Africa to be able to claim that Mali is somehow greater or number one. But it's a very interesting societal structure that involves a lot of playfulness, a lot of joking.
Huh.
So different castes within Mali. The societal structure was set up by the warrior King Sunjata Keita, who founded the Mali Empire. And so it was made in such a way that different groupings within different castes could communicate and sort of respect one another and one another's place within the societal structure, but do so in a playful and joking manner. And it also, this followed as well between different ethnic groups. They will joke. They will rag on each other.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It's great. It's hilarious. And it's a lot of fun. And they'll just mess with each other. And the idea is that any kind of underlying real tensions that they may have, between different caste groupings or between different ethnic groups, they can sort of duke it out through this joking.
Sense of humor.
It gives them a way to express something. Yeah.
Huh.
But the idea is that it doesn't go into actual violence and warfare.
Huh.
That's the idea. Currently, we're actually seeing it's a difficult time in Mali, and there is some ethnic conflict that's happening, which is very problematic. But it's
obviously
a rich place.
Yeah,
it's one of the most impoverished places. Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It's great.
Do you feel it? Your experience there, did it influence your music? Do you feel in a certain way? Even when you're doing, if you're not doing the Malian music, do you feel it seeps over into the Americana?
Actually, I think every album that I've put out has had some songs that were written in Mali. Like my American folk stuff, but songs that were written in Mali. Right. So it was shaped, my music has been shaped by the place. I wrote a lot there.
Did you take your instrument when you went to Africa originally with the Peace Corps so that you could?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I wasn't going to go move there for 2+ years without a guitar. I planned on sitting in the hammock a bit and strumming around. I wish that I had become a more proficient player with all that time there, but I played a lot and wrote a lot and stuff, and it definitely did. In fact, and I talked about this when I put out my second album called Western Tales and Trails, which is like, story songs, Western themed story song, legends and lore and whatnot. And to me, Mali, I felt like being in Mali that I could connect with, in a sense, the Old West. First of all, landscape-wise, it was either like Mars or like West Texas or something. And I just felt it's sort of another era there. It's a developing country,
right?
And people are really resourceful. there's an independent streak, and they wouldn't call it pioneering because they've always been there.
Right.
But that kind of subsistence farming, homesteading, I guess, essentially. But so there are connections. There were felt connections that I wanted to explore, in my songs, and so.
Well, I saw that trailer for the documentary that you're working on, and it looked like I didn't know if you were just going to play, if you were going to play, or if you were just going to go see, go to a festival, or what was going on. Yeah. Did you actually play?
I didn't play at that festival. That was the Festival sur le Niger, the festival on the Niger River in Ségou. It's actually like the musicians are playing on a boat that is docked.
Yeah.
And of course the crowd is there on the sort of beach or whatever on the side of the river. No, I wasn't playing in the festival, but we did go there to take it in and see some acts, and it was tremendous. And tremendous. I feel like that word has now been co-opted by someone, and if you say it, you just sound like them, and that sucks.
Yeah. Tremendous.
Yeah. But where was I going with that? So the goal of that trip, that trip was to go back. So I went back to Mali and it was to make a record. From my time in Peace Corps, I started to write songs in the Bambara language, and I went back in 2009 for maybe a couple months and spent time there and wrote the bulk of the songs that did end up on this album, and just reconnected with the people, my friends there, and the place, and just the life, the experience of being in and living in Mali. And then I came back the next year and made a record. And so I brought a filmmaker, which initially wasn't even an idea until my grandfather was like, I told him I did a Kickstarter to raise money to go to make this album and record. And then I guess I was telling my grandfather that it worked, or whatever, and made the mark for the Kickstarter. And so cool, I was going to be going and recording. And he said, "Oh, great." And he said, "Okay, so you're gonna go and record it, and then and you'll also like film the whole proceedings and make some kind of film out of it too." And I was like, "Oh,
oh, I need to do more."
I hadn't thought of that. The answer is yes. That has to happen, clearly. So so I brought a filmmaker, great filmmaker out of Athens who'd studied film at UGA, Jason Miller. He's doing all sorts of great stuff now. Emmy nominated, I think. He's in LA and been a part of various TV shows and just projects. He actually did the documentary on of Montreal, among other projects he's done. So so that was neat. So I brought him to Mali, and we, he just turned the camera on and shot. And so,
did you perform? Did you perform places ever when you were there? I'm just curious how the music might be received.
It is well received, because anytime a clear foreigner, especially a Caucasian person, is singing in the Bambara language over there, people are tripped out. They love it.
Bet.
It's hysterical to them, and they appreciate it because you're singing in Bambara, and it shows that you value and care about the culture enough to that you've learned the language, and that you that you want to sort of contribute to the musical experience there. So it's a hit. It could suck. It will be a hit. They love it.
That's awesome.
But no, it's not. I hadn't booked gigs. It was about just being there and seeing my younger brother there, and going back to the village where I had lived, and seeing other friends, and of course recording and trying to, in terms of the film, present something about Mali. The place, the land, the people, the culture. The spirit of the place, some of the challenges, some of the poverty. By virtue of the camera being on, we did go to a clinic, and we went to a school, and so there are sort of like moments of discussion where we're interviewing folks about the educational system or healthcare and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's just you get a sense of it because we're there and it's happening. So so we were talking about this before we went live, but Yeah, but that film is not finished. There is a trailer that you can find on my website, which is www.adam-klein.com, Klein. And it's interesting. I found myself making another film now, which is going to get completed before I then circle back to trying to finish the Malian film. And the new film is related to my next album, which was recorded at a place called Dialback Sound, which is a great studio in Water Valley, Mississippi, run by a friend of mine, Bronson 2, and his partner there, Matt Patton, who plays bass with the Drive-By Truckers and of the Dexatines, and a great guy and incredibly supportive of music and musicians. And so I made this album out there. It's called Low Flying Planes, and it'll come out in... the plan is the early part of 2019, whatever that means. Anywhere from January to April is my hope. But we'll see. I don't have, there's cover art and a number of things that have to get into place first. But I brought a filmmaker to film that process and the making of the record documentary, which, the Malian film is kind of, it's a making of the record documentary plus, this other stuff about Mali. This was meant to be more of a making of the record documentary. And so my friend Jeff Shipman, if you've been listening and you've made it this far, this is Jeff Shipman. And he is a great guy and a phenomenal filmmaker. And so he came out and filmed it. And so what it's going to be is like what we think it's going to be. It's not completely edited yet. Is 16 to 17 to 20 minute short film about the making of the record. But within that will be 3 standalone music videos, which will have footage of us recording those songs, plus probably some B-roll of the area, and of we also went out to the Mississippi Delta, which is nearby.
Why'd you go to that studio? Why didn't, just out of curiosity?
There are studios closer to your house. Yeah, for sure. So Bronson, who engineers at the studio, used to live in Winterville outside of Athens and played drums with my band, which is under my name, Adam Klein and the Wildfires. And then he got a job to move to work at the studio, which at the time was owned by Bruce Watson, who runs Fat Possum Records, which is a really cool record label. And that was sort of like the Fat Possum studio, and Bronson was working out of there. So so he moved out there for that. And we just work well together. He knows me well. I have great trust in him, and he knows that. And
people don't realize a lot of times that it's not about where it is, but it's about the relationship you build. I try to tell people it's in the arts. There's a lot of parallels, but in filmmaking, you see people that show up again and again for the same director or same producer, and it's, in my opinion, it's not necessarily because they're the best, but it's because they get along the best. They kind of know each other, they know the idiosyncrasies and their hot buttons, and you find that relationship in theater and in music. And
that's right.
Everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Bronson is totally badass. But also, yes, we have a great working relationship, and he's done my past 3 albums, and there have been sonic progressions and changes from this, from album to album, and that's been intentional. And he's, he's. When
there's progressions, just out of curiosity, between albums, is it because you thought I need to do something a little different, or you just needed a different sound at that moment?
Yeah, it's not a need. It's not like I need to do something different because maybe that will work for me. Maybe that'll be the ticket.
Yeah.
It's that. I have many interests in life, and I have many interests in music too. And I, of course, I don't want to make the same sounding record because you can take songs and dress them up in similar ways, and I don't know. You can present the same package essentially with a different set of songs, but that's not what I was looking to do. I would say Low Flying Planes is what I call the sonic progression from what's the word here? The sonic progression from, I guess, the Sky Blue DeVille album, which was the first album Bronson did with me, which came out in 2013. And part of that, I had my friend Crash Case, an electric guitar player. He played with the band, and he played on that record, Sky Blue DeVille. And I absolutely love his playing and his sound, and wanted them to come color these songs as well. So he's back, and he's playing guitar on Low Flying Planes, and Bronson, who played drums on Sky Blue DeVille, plays some of the drums on Low Flying Planes, and so there was some personnel similarities and stuff, and some, I think, sonic progression it's somewhat similar, but it takes it to the next maybe logical step, I think, sonically, and I'm pleased with Sky Blue DeVille, but I'd like to think that in terms of the songwriting as well, that and people who hear it tell me that they think it's strong and it's moving in a good direction. So
we're good.
Yeah.
Well, when it comes out, do you have plans to tour, or are you just gonna?
Yeah, I would like to. I'm gonna do my best. Let's be real.
Yeah.
I'll do my best.
Yeah.
I have an 18-month-old now. She turned 18
God.
months. Yeah, 2 or 3 days ago. Yeah. So we talk about these irons in the fire. We talk about the fact that podcast was like quarterly, but there was a spring and summer, combined edition. It's like, man,
life comes at you
we
hard
are
and fast
still
sometimes.
in it. Yeah. And it's delightful. But
you'll just have to see.
But time is definitely more limited now to put towards anything else.
Yeah.
Beyond. I got a job the week before she was born.
Yeah.
I was doing freelance stuff before that.
Yeah.
So, and that was key. I needed to know what time my wife needs to know we need to know my schedule, and just like,
right.
When you have a baby, you gotta,
you gotta do things.
Not only do you want to be there.
Oh,
you don't miss it. And so, so that's what,
so we'll just see
that's what's
how
going on.
things
So as far as what will I do?
Take the kid on the road with you. That's what you do.
That is nice. And some people orient their lives and make that work. I don't know. I don't know if we'll make that happen as much, but what I'll do is I'll take some time and maybe do some, hopefully a number of extended weekend runs of shows.
Right.
And then maybe, I'll get a run up to, New England and New York and DC and stuff, and up the coast, Eastern Seaboard stuff. And then maybe sometime later I can, make it out west. So, I'll do what I can, but,
it's all good.
That's all you can do. Yeah.
That's right.
And I don't want, I feel like maybe in the past for myself, and I'm sure I see this in a lot of people, our validation should not be based on how other people hear our music, or any kind of art that one does. It should be done because you love it, because it's fulfilling, because it's challenging and enriching, and because hopefully you enjoy, it could be excruciating, but to whatever degree you do,
get it out.
Enjoy the process. Yeah, you have to get it out. And once you do, you have something that you've created that you can be proud of and that can live. And that's the ball game. That's what it is. And if people find my music and suddenly, I'm in a position to make a living off of that. Well, I shouldn't say suddenly. There's a lot of factors involved, that have to take place on my end. But the point is, then that's great. But like, just let the cards fall where they fall, and do your work and put the stuff out there and amass a body of work.
Yeah.
In whatever realm, or whatever kind of art that you're doing, and that I think is what is important, and that's kind of the gift that you are presenting to those who can find it, and hopefully will find something meaningful in it.
Yeah.
So
how do people find you then? How do they find you?
I'm one of the 2.8 million singer-songwriters that are online. My website's www.adam-klein.com, Klein.com. Of course, I have a Facebook page that's /Adam Klein Music. I think my Bandcamp is the same, Adam Klein Music.
Yeah.
I'm on Spotify and iTunes, all that stuff. The tricky thing is there are a couple other Adam Klein
Imagine that.
musicians. Yeah, one is an opera singer.
That's not you. Just to be clear.
That would be neat to be able to do that. That's not me though. Give him credit. And then also, there's an Adam Klein who, I think the name of his band is or was, I think, the In-Betweens.
Well, thanks for coming in, man. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah. Are we done? Was that it?
Yeah.
Can I tell a story about that? Can I tell a story about the? When I say that to our listeners, I'm pointing to
the recorder,
the recording device, the Zoom H4. So when I was in Mali in 2009 and went to the Festival au Désert, which is different from the Festival sur le Niger. I was mentioning the festival that happened on the Niger River in the Ségou region. But there's another, probably better known festival that used to take place in Mali in Timbuktu, the region of Timbuktu. The city of Timbuktu is in Mali. And I don't know if it was maybe 70 kilometers outside of the city of Timbuktu in the Sahara Desert in the dunes near a community or town or something. Yeah. Near a community or town called Essakane, although I did not see Essakane. I don't know where it is or was. I guess it's a collection of tents in the desert, but but near Essakane, there was a festival called Festival au Désert, the festival in the desert. And so it's an amazing festival. It's not currently happening. It was a festival of music of northern parts of Mali, and some also international acts would come. So, people like Ali Farka Touré, who unfortunately had passed away by the time I went, although I did get to have breakfast with him once in Ségou, and that was really awesome. But his son, Vieux Farka Touré, and, bands like Tenarwin, a lot of the North Desert Blues and Tuareg acts, Bombino and other such people. This guy named Kudede, who was incredible. He was actually a bass player with a number of the bands there, but he was also a songwriter. So here's the story about the Zoom. I got one of those. Like I said, I'm not technically minded. I thought I knew how to work it. And so anyhow, it's sort of like, I kind of liken it to like the Saharan desert version of like the Kerrville Folk Festival or something. In other words, at nighttime, there are these different collections of people gathering, and it's cold in the desert at night, and sitting by campfires and playing music. And you find that you have these different campfires and groups of people playing and stuff at Kerrville too. So anyhow, I hear this beautiful, gorgeous acoustic guitar sound sort of wafting across the tune, and I make my way towards it, and it's this little fire with a handful of people around it, and this guy sitting there playing. And I mean, it was one of the most like majestic moments and musical moments of my life. And I had the device, the Zoom H4, and so I recorded it. And I was very, it was like excited afterwards to be able to have this document, just to, whether I do anything with it or not, just to have it and listen back to it and enjoy it. It was gorgeous stuff. And Kudede is from Niger, and but to me it was like the Nigerian sort of North Desert Sonrai-ish version of a guy named Boubacar Traoré, who is a Malian guy from Kai, the western region, an important musician there who, to me, is like his acoustic, rustic, sort of country folk and blues is like the oral sonic expression of being in Mali, of the place. And there are also like, musical acts like Salif Keita and other like full band, and the Super Rail Band, full production music that I would say the same thing about, that it captures the feel of Mali. But as far as this sort of rustic acoustic thing, Karkar, to me, is hits the mark. And so Kudede was similar, but stylistically a bit different. But it did the same thing for me. And unfortunately, he died in a car accident in Burkina Faso some years ago. Anyhow, long story, not short, because I don't do that.
Yeah.
I accidentally formatted it after the fact. I pressed some button that erased it, and it is gone. And
but it's still in your memory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But, and by the way, you're wearing a Henry Rollins shirt. So to tell the same story, or to speak about, piggyback on the festival theme, each year you would find these Western artists who would get clued into the festival and go. And Robert Plant went and played, one year. I'm pretty sure Bonnie Raitt went and played one year, and other folks too. When I was there, Henry Rollins was there, not playing.
Was he doing spoken word or?
No, he wasn't performing. He was just taking
out?
it in, because he's an interesting guy and he's interested in what's out there, and he just came to check it out. So Henry Rollins is there, and he. So we sat on a sand dune and watched the sunset together one night and chatted about stuff. I remember that. Yeah, intense dude, but nice. Yeah, he was a nice guy. It was, it was cool. I mean, his mind, everyone's mind was blown. Like all the travelers, coming in from Belgium or Netherlands or UK or the US, whatever, to this festival. We're just, really, really neat thing. A real treat. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, man.
Good stuff. See y'all. All right. Here's a song called Counting the Days. Once time went by so slowly, forever seemed like every day. Now I'm watching seasons pass like a lightning flash, and I'm broken with nothing left to say. Ain't it funny? Ride our little pony so long, so hard till it's falling in pain. Oh, collapsing in some God-forsaken city. I can hardly recognize your face. Oh, may I be good to you. Be blessed in your way. Something bought, something sold, better than gold handmade. Me, I'm just counting the days. We are reckless, we are wanderers. We learn, we live to see the sun burn the stars away. Now I'll trade the moon rising in the canyons for a chance to know this love that can't be free. Yeah, we're planting crop of maize and sorghum. We're praying for an abundance of rain. Oh, we're tilling this land that's unforgiving. May this seed be touched by God's own hand. Oh, may I be good to you. Blessed in your ways. Something bought, something sold, better than gold handmade. Me, I'm just counting the day. Yeah, may I be good to you. And may you be blessed in your ways. Something more, something so better than gold and me. Me, I'm just counting the days. Oh yeah, me, I'm just counting the days. Yeah, me, I'm just counting the days.
I am Sarah Buchanan-Sasson, and I am the executive director and co-founder of Kula Project.
And Kula Project.
Kula Project.
Been around for how long, or comes from where?
6.5 years. Wow. We work in Rwanda, but I am from Atlanta. My teammate Lindsay is from Atlanta, but we exclusively work in Rwanda.
As far as you partner with folks in Rwanda, or do you have offices in Rwanda? How does
we do?
How do you do? I mean, that's quite a commute.
It is quite a commute. We have a staff of 18 in Rwanda, and we have one head office in Kigali, the capital city, and then we have 2 field offices in 2 different provinces.
I gotcha.
Yeah, and so our whole goal is to eradicate poverty through the development of entrepreneurs. So we don't, even though we are technically a nonprofit charity, we don't think charity is going to fix poverty. It has to be locally run businesses with healthy and strong leaders, and so that we run a business fellowship for entrepreneurs in rural Rwanda.
So is it kind of like an SBA, kind of a small business administration in Rwanda, where you give advice and
it's more like it's a business accelerator, basically. So we were looking at what the best companies and leaders have here in the States, what things that I, as a founder, had opportunities to do, like different leadership trainings and coaching, mentorship, and then just learning how to write business plans, how to build a board, how to ask for money. And we were like, poor people in rural Rwanda should have that same opportunity. Like, we don't see poverty as a lack of money anymore. We see it as a lack of opportunity and access. And people in rural areas in the developing world have little to no access to any of those things. And so we wanted to create it. So we have industry training. We work with coffee farmers, basket weavers, tailoring, and agribusiness. And we help them learn how to become an expert in their field. And then we have life and leadership training. So they each have a one-on-one mentor that they're with through the whole time that they're with our fellowship.
From Rwanda or from the States?
From Rwanda. No, so Who
do you partner with?
We hire Rwandans that are really incredible people. So we have a team of 20, and 3 of us are American, and 17 are Rwandan. And we want to keep as much or as close to that ratio as possible. We want our work to outlast us, and that's not going to work if we just send a bunch of Americans over there. Yeah. We want our people to know we respect their culture and their land, and we're not the Westerner coming to save them. We just want to be alongside them, and that means us having a majority Rwandan staff. And
okay, so how does this originate? What's the moment 6, 7, 10 years ago, whenever?
It's where we are now.
It was a trip.
It was.
Okay, I figured.
It was 2 trips, actually. The first one I went to Africa was brutal. I didn't do well.
You weren't physically ready for it?
I wasn't. It was my first time out of the country. And Kenya was I went to Kenya, and it was a huge culture shock for me. I had come up in this, Fayetteville, Georgia bubble of America is the greatest country in the world. There's no reason to leave. And then I went there and realized there's so many reasons to get out. But I ate white rice and watermelon every morning. I was afraid of the food. I was just out of my comfort zone in every area. I remember posing for a photo on the bed under the mosquito net.
Whenever you could be under a
Like, I
mosquito
have
net,
a
you were
picture
going to
of
be.
me sitting on a bed in all of my clothes because I was under a mosquito net.
Yeah.
And it's so humiliating thinking about it. But I went back a year later to the same place.
Well, how long were you there? That
Just
first
2
time?
weeks.
Was it a mission trip?
Yeah.
Kind of,
I went with a dentist. And I came back.
to help people with their dental
Yeah,
issues?
so we were out in rural Kenya, and they have no dental care out there. And so this dentist, people walked for days to get there, and he was just like pulling teeth. And it was crazy to think, hear how toothache, like they're so debilitating.
Oh, yeah.
And these people have had toothaches for years just because of a decaying tooth or whatever. And they walked for days to get there, and the dentist would do whatever. Sometimes it was just like numbing it and pulling it, and sometimes it was like pretty intense. He opened his whole like toolkit, and I was like, those are power tools. You can't put those in people's mouths. And he was like, that's how it's done, and they are actual tools.
Yeah. So you didn't have dental.
I did not have dental problems. I didn't have a dental background. But I came home, and my life,
after you soaked it in and realized that it wasn't the worst thing in the world.
I thought it was. Like, for a year, I was like, I got to go to Africa. I went on a safari. I checked my box. I got a stamp in my passport. But then I went. They asked, the same group of people were going to the same place a year later, and they wanted me to go. And I was like, oh, I can't have any money. Like, I already fundraised. Perfect excuse. They can't say anything about it. And then a couple of hours later, I got an email, and it was like, your trip has been anonymously paid for. And I was like, no.
Wrong excuse.
Dang it, I should have had finals I couldn't miss, or some like disease or something. But I'm so glad that happened, because I went back to the same place and I saw the stagnation of these women who were busting their butt trying to provide a life for their families, and for reasons completely beyond their control, they weren't able to do it. There was a drought in the region. They lived off of their farm. Their farm was gone. Their kids weren't in school anymore. They weren't eating. They were much smaller than they were a year prior, when they should, 3-year-olds should look a lot different in a year. And this one little girl looked way younger, less healthy. She had lost her hair. And I thought, this sucks. Like, this is such an injustice. This woman, for the only reason that she was born right here, she won't get to where she wants to go. And that means her kids won't get to where she wants them to go either. So I came back to the States. I was at Georgia State in pre-law, and then I changed my major to international development with a focus on African politics. And when I graduated, my husband and I decided to start Kula with this idea that, we needed to provide opportunity and access, and the people that we were providing it for needed to say in how it was done. We saw a huge lack of that in the international.
Did you just start doing research then? I mean, was that the point when you came back, you start saying who's working, who's got boots on the ground, what's happening?
And then I looked at them, and then I went to a few places internationally, and I just saw so many programs.
Went to other countries?
With different organizations, just kind of seeing what was out there, what my options were when I graduated. Because my original plan wasn't to start my own thing. But
to work with somebody else somehow. Yeah.
And I still encourage people to do that. Like, find somebody who's doing it right and go work with them. Don't start something.
Don't think you have all the answers.
Don't. What was most important to me and to my husband, James, was that the people whose lives you were trying to change had a say in how it would be changed. And I couldn't find that like I wanted to. And so that's why we started Kula. But then we got started, and we realized, people don't do that because it's really hard. And so we didn't do it the first 2.5 years. And not surprisingly, everything we tried to do those 2.5 years completely failed. None of it worked.
Wow, that's a long time. 2 years of pouring into something like this.
Well, that's why we decided we could quit, because we had already exceeded like the millennial expectation of how long you try something. And so we were like, 2 years is a solid effort. I'm done. And we were in Jamaica working on a project that I had to sell my car to fund that failed while we were there. We didn't even, normally it would take like a few months for us to realize it wasn't working. We were there, and in 3 weeks we were like, oh crap, this.
Well, so were you doing projects in various places. You weren't in Rwanda.
No, we weren't in Rwanda yet.
Okay.
So that was another mistake.
Were you just trying to pick places that were a little more accessible, a little easier to get to?
Well, we just by connection. So we were just trying to find who would let us come. And at the beginning, we thought the more places we were in, the more legitimate we were. So we worked with a homeless center downtown. We worked in Jamaica, Swaziland, and Kenya. And for a team of 2 with no money, you cannot do that well, you know? So when we were in Jamaica, we were like, we've already raised money for Kenya. We're going to finish it and be done. But I thought, you know, if I studied a lot about the Rwandan genocide in college, and I thought if I'm going to go back to Kenya, I need to go to Rwanda because who knows if I'm ever going to be back on this continent.
Right.
And so we hooked up with a coffee company, and they kind of showed us around. And when we got there, it was like this overwhelming feeling that things weren't working because we weren't where we were supposed to be. And so we said, let's not quit yet. That was in October 2013. And then in January 2014, James and I went back for about a month and a half to Rwanda, just met with coffee farmers, listening to their needs, and thought we can, you know, they just needed to grow more coffee, grow better coffee, and have a place to sell it. And we thought we can figure that out. Like we had before been working in agriculture, but in a bunch of different ways. And we thought we had to be farmers to work with farmers. So we moved to a 7-acre farm in Woodstock, tried to be farmers. And of course that didn't work because...
But at least it was local.
At least it was local.
Yeah.
James got a baptismal pool off of Craigslist to try to start aquaponics.
Okay.
And he bought 1,000 tilapia. And the day that he bought them, an actual tornado came and knocked the power out for 7 hours, and all of the tilapia died. Because
I thought you were going to say it was going to be like a Sharknado. There would be just like fish.
There could have been. We were in the basement in the closet because an actual tornado was coming. So we were like, thank God we don't have to be farmers.
Yeah.
We can figure out,
Right.
We need to hire the best coffee trainers in Rwanda. We need to figure out how to expand their coffee farms, and then eventually we'll find a place to sell it. And so that was 2014, and since then we are exclusively in Rwanda.
Right.
And
do you focus on a certain part of the country?
we have 2. We work through cooperatives. So we have a cooperative in the eastern province and a cooperative in the northern province. They're very different. The east is a lot warmer and more rolling hills, where the north is 10 degrees cooler and mountains. It's so beautiful. For now, those are our only 2 regions.
So your entry point is through the coffee co-ops.
Mm-hmm.
And so then you try to serve whatever communities are attached to that area.
So we go through cooperatives because it's already an established structure, and it's already, so we build trust with them. And then so if we have trust.
And everybody else knows them.
Right.
So,
and then they can help us choose, like, who are the people that we should bring into our fellowship? What is the need here? And then we work with the cooperative then on their own leadership and how to have bylaws and elections and, you know, a strong turnover. But they're the ones who really keep us involved with the community.
Okay. So I gotta stop for 1 second here, and you go ahead and have a drink. So I get this concept. Okay, if this were in Georgia, I totally get it. If everything was here, it's local. You deal with these people and you try to help. I'm still just overwhelmed by the grand leap on the map that you have to do.
Yeah.
So, and when you've already, as a startup, you're in 2 years. You are a startup. People don't like to think that way, but you're a business. If you can't keep the business going, you can't do the good work, right?
Totally.
So you're grinding down all your money. How do you maintain this? Is it through the kindness of mystery patrons and things like that? Or do you actually fly yourself?
Yeah, so
that seems like that'd be the way.
Yeah,
you know?
totally. So we have an incredible group of supporters and donors. Now we are working on offsetting our need for donors with earned income. So we're going to start to sell coffee at the end of the year. We sell artisan goods that our basket weavers and tailors make now. But yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I never thought I would be in Rwanda 11 years ago. I didn't even know where it was.
And I still don't.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I couldn't find it.
It's a tiny country the size of New Jersey. in the heart of Africa. It's bordered by Tanzania, Uganda, Congo, or Democratic Republic of Congo, and Burundi. But I always, like, it wasn't my choice. Like, I would not have chosen this for my life.
It chose you.
Yeah, and we joke about it. There was this one moment we were in the middle of nowhere, and we were arguing about this cow that we bought that was supposed to be pregnant, because we have a dairy cow program, and it wasn't pregnant. So I'm sitting there yelling at this guy because my cow wasn't pregnant. And I look to Lindsay and just start laughing, and I'm like, what is happening? How are we standing here right now? You and I are discussing with this guy that ripped us off because our cow wasn't pregnant, and he's telling me it is. And I'm saying, no, we've had it for 11 months and there's no calf. It's not pregnant. And it was just like, this was, I was going to be a lawyer. Like, I was going to go to Northwestern Law School in Chicago. And at the time, I thought I was going to live in a real city because I didn't see Atlanta as that. Yeah. And I did not. So.
But that's just, that's pretty astounding. So how do you do that remotely? Because that's also got to be a certain challenge.
Yeah. It's not as much of a challenge as it was. Now that we have a really strong leadership team.
Well, that's the key.
There.
If you can get some key people in place, then everything changes. But
Totally.
It's getting those people.
It's getting them. That was difficult. Keeping them is one of my greatest. I will do anything to keep you guys there. They're incredible. And now 99.9% of my job is fundraising. And Lindsay works closely with our director of impact to measure all the work we're doing to make sure it's doing what we think it's doing, and that this isn't a huge waste of time for a whole bunch of people.
And is the director of impact here?
No, he's Rwandan.
So he's Rwandan. He's kind of keeping the books and making sure everything's...
Yeah, so we do a lot of baseline surveys, so then we can resurvey and see, oh, this worked, this didn't work. Next round, we shouldn't put money into this. We should shift it here because this worked way better than we thought, and this didn't work at all like we thought. We're always refining. That's one of our core values.
So do you have is there a thought that ultimately you're working towards planned obsolescence, that you work yourselves totally out of the mix, that they then control everything and realize as much as possible?
As much as possible. We're working on building a curriculum that can be trained and taught on its own. So, best case scenario, we have an awesome curriculum, and then our team is just a team of training the trainer, and then we can move out.
The curriculum would be what? It would be, because you don't work in just one area, right?
Yeah.
What are you doing? What kind of programs do you have over there?
It's our fellowship. So it's 15 to 24 months. It's the industry training, what is your core business? Here are our trainers for those things. And then we have the mentorship, and in that include we have health training, maternal health training, leadership training, and then the end is business planning. So this is how you write a business plan. This is how you have financial literacy. We're helping them all go to formal banking because none of them have bank accounts. And at the end, it's business investment. So it's like Shark Tank Rwanda, and they can ask for an investment from Kula. We don't do microloans or grants. We do investments.
And how do you work in an area? These things sound awesome, but the image, part of the image that you paint, and part of what it's been thrown at us as Americans, is that Rwanda doesn't have. It's got the poverty. It doesn't. Even if they had the brilliant business mind, they're still stuck in an area where they can't sell their goods theoretically.
Well,
is that not the case, or
no? So Rwanda is known as a country that had a genocide. We tell people, no, it is a country that overcame a genocide. In 24 years, Rwanda is now the 5th safest nation in the world. It's the 3rd cleanest country in the world, the first nation to ban plastic bags. They have more women in parliament than any other country, and they are the fastest growing economy on the continent. They lead Africa in every development statistic. When you land in Kigali, you feel like you're in Southern California. There is no trash on the side of the road. Everything is beautiful and landscaped and clean, and there's so much pride there. These people, it's like they've overcome the worst thing, so now it's like, throw
We
it
can
at
only
me.
go up.
Yeah, throw it at me. I've already done I've overcome things that you can't even imagine are true.
Right.
I can do anything now. And so they're so anxious to keep going and to change the narrative of what everybody in the world thinks they are. They call it Rwandanization. Like, they think the rest of Africa is now starting to copy what they do, which would be awesome if they did. But they have it's called a Nore. It's like this mystical Rwandan figure, and it's the ideal Rwandan, and it represents everything that the country should strive to be. And
Is this a national political goal? Or
Rwanda it's the least corrupt country on the continent. It has a president that has not stood in the way of them developing. Investing there is very easy. We actually joke sometimes that it's so not corrupt that everything takes a long time because you have to get 27 signatures on anything to make sure there isn't anything going on.
Nothing going on. Yeah.
But they just got the first Marriott in sub-Saharan Africa, and they have tried so hard to just do it on their own as much as they can, but also opening up to foreign investment, but making sure that the foreign investment isn't on the backs of the poor people, that it includes them to help them get to the next level.
Okay, so now you paint a different picture,
Yeah.
right, that most people wouldn't see. So if you're dealing with especially rural, clients on some level that need to try to find those markets, so
Right.
now you're just connecting the dots that may not be more than 20, 30, 40 miles away on some
Totally.
respects.
Like, some of it is just they're growing crops that aren't grown by every other person, and then they take them to the main market in the city, and then they sell them. Some of it is honey. Some of it is getting a flour mill, so you're selling a produced good instead of just the raw grain. And some of it's buying a moto to start a taxi service. But what we looked at it, when I was in Kenya in 2010, and I saw these little girls, I thought, I want to help this mom, these little girls. I want to send them to school. I want to get them some food. And I was like, what am I going to do to that for every
kid that you run into?
Every kid that I run into, I can't. But their parents can. And if their parents have the opportunity to do it on their own, this is going to be way better. And we don't want to be the white saviors. I sometimes, my biggest thing is, I'm always going to be white. I can't change. I can't blend in. We try so hard.
I'm sure somebody's got a process where if you wanted, we could get you whatever shade of whatever you want to be.
Totally. But Lindsay
the guilt
and I,
will still be there.
Yeah, we've learned, we learn as much language as we can. It's a very difficult language. And it's funny because now they're so not used to white people speaking anything that when we say a few things, then they just start talking to us
full on.
Right. So we joke about, I wonder what we've agreed to.
Yeah.
Because there's
because you say thank you in their language, and all of a sudden
half of the Rwandan language I feel like is just a variety of grunts, or sounds. So it's that's oh, I don't know about that, or then you're agreeing to it. So a lot of times you just raise your eyebrows and and then you're I have no, I could have just
it's the
married
unspoken language
Lindsay
that
off
you
to
don't
this
know.
family. I don't know what just happened.
Well, and I got to think too, it's not like you're flying under the radar when you're there because,
Right.
tall, white, blonde,
Right.
attractive woman, they're going, I don't think she lives around the corner.
Yeah,
So,
we're known.
Yeah.
We,
The cops follow you, right? Because, hey, who's this strange white person walking through our neighborhood?
we have, yes, but
It's
now
the
they're our
reverse side,
friends.
right?
So, we've made really good friends with the police and the local government. So, I feel like we're known for the most part now.
Yeah.
Even people we don't work with know our names.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we bring people over there, we're very, very, Kula, we operate in a very loose structure. My goal is to hire people who I don't have to place a lot of rules around. But when we bring people over, we do, because we're this is a very precious place. And you can't come over here and ruin our rapport within this community. They know that we respect them, that we see them as equals and not people that need to be helped. And so, don't give anything away. Don't throw things out the window. Don't be an idiot, And so we're always watching how people are interacting to make sure that our level of intentionality is maintained no matter who is new that's coming.
So besides doing this training there and this fellowship, as you call it, on how are you, so you want to integrate where you're helping sell their products as well?
Right.
So you're going to bring them here, or are you going to try to sell them throughout Africa?
Both. So we'll sell coffee here in the States, but it'll always be direct to consumer. Like, I'm not interested in being like trying to get
counter.
into or trying to sell at Whole Foods. Like, the margin on that is like cents, and it's a lot of hard work, and it's just not, that's not what chose me.
Right.
You know? And then we sell like the artisan stuff, but our goal would be to sell as much in Rwanda as we can. So like our tailors, for example, we help them get contracts to make school uniforms in their districts instead of relying on us for their market all the time. We want to be relied on as little as possible, because when we are able to leave, they need to be able to do everything that we were doing without us.
So your main strategy, or your main task these days, you say, is fundraising. And so that's just to keep the programs you have in place and build. How often do you go to Rwanda, or you or your husband? Is one of you there, one of you here? Do you?
No, so my husband actually stepped out in 2014 because we decided that we could not build an organization together and build a life together.
It's wise.
It was a very hard summer, but now we joke about what were we even thinking that could work. Like, some people could make it work. Most couples I know cannot. And one of us needed to get a job that actually paid a salary.
For health benefits
and
whatever else,
like,
you know?
We need rent. I bartended the first 2.5 years, and it got to the point where I couldn't do that and get Kula to the next level. So he got a real job, you know, as people say. And then I used to go a lot because I was program director and executive director, which was necessary at the time, but also wasn't going to take us to the next level. So I hired a program director who worked in Uganda for a long time, and he moved to Rwanda almost a year and a half ago. And so now I just go when I'm taking board members or donors. So I go like 3 times a year for about a week and a half, where I used to go 2 or 3 times a year for 4 to 6 weeks.
So online, is that how you're helping support some of the artisans and things of that nature? If people go to the website, they can see the things on that.
So we do a lot of emphasis on storytelling with photo and video. Our photographer and videographer have been with. Our photographer has been with me since 2014. Our videographer, Zach, has been with me. He photographed our very first fundraiser. So he's been with me since the beginning. And the great thing about having the same 2 guys doing that is that they, like I say, like, they know our voice because they helped write it, you know? So especially our videographer, Zach, like, when he's not there, our fellows are like, "Oh, where's Zach?" You know, like, they know him, they love him. We get messages that said, "So-and-so told me to tell you to tell Zach hey." And I'm like, did they tell us hey?
Yeah.
You know?
You can't take it personally.
I don't. It's awesome. But so we tell the stories of the people we work with. So it's not just the millions of people that are poor in Africa. This is, Marceline, and she is a person, and like she's not a poor person. She is a person that is poor. Like there's a big difference in that. And we want, especially now, like where America is and how we view other people is devastating to us. And like, so we feel our job is just to show Americans that, yeah, they're not American, but they're people and they're awesome and they deserve to succeed just because they're people, not because they're not Americans, you know? And so we've become hyper vigilant in that.
I got you.
Test.
So do you have any, have you had any success? The hardest part, I think, is probably keeping up and understanding where people have gone through the program. Mm-hmm. And have you had pretty good success ratio with the folks, or any kind of metrics that might tell you how things have gone and if the program's building?
Yeah, so this is our first year of running the fellowship. So we don't have metrics on the full thing, but we do some of the things we've been doing: coffee training, planting coffee trees. Coffee trees take 3 years to produce. So, but for when we were just doing coffee trees, everybody's like, "What's your impact?" I'm like, "We don't have any.
Yeah.
They
Give me
haven't
3
produced
years.
yet." Yeah, like I need some time.
Yeah.
And that was really disheartening for us, even when you're in the grind of it and you're trying to remind yourself why you're doing it and you can't look to anything because nothing has happened yet. And you've almost died trying to get these.
Just imagine what that
trees
farmer feels
planted.
like.
I know.
I mean, you're just the extra.
Totally. And it's like, my life will be fine if it doesn't work. Theirs will not. And but we measure everything so we can say this isn't working, this is. But this past year, coffee trees started to produce, and it was very exciting. We had a lady that was able to buy more land to start an agribusiness, so different vegetables that she wasn't growing before. People's kids are in school now. They're eating more. They have access to medical care. They're learning maternal health and learning, and some of our ladies, none of them knew, how babies were made. Their parents, we're working in the first post-genocide generation. So for the majority of them that are in their early 20s, the school system was being rebuilt when they were going into it. And so their parents couldn't afford secondary school, so they stopped around 5th or 6th grade, and they never learned that.
Right.
So
yeah, the things we take for granted.
The things we take for granted that we just think everybody else knows, you realize you didn't just innately know that, you were taught that. And family planning is so important when it comes to lifting your family out of poverty. And we did HIV tests. They were all negative, thank God.
Awesome.
And but making sure what we're doing works, second to it working, is the most important thing for us, because we take people's money that they've earned and spend it on things that we think are going to change people's lives. And we want to make sure that we can go to sleep at night knowing that we're doing everything we can to make sure we're using other people's money the best way that we can.
Well, that's an insanely wonderful story that you just told me. Thanks for coming in today and sharing.
Yeah.
If people want to learn more or get involved or donate or whatever, what's the best way for them to do that?
So if you want to sponsor a fellow, it's $65 a month, and we can connect you with them and keep you updated on how they're doing. If you just want to learn more, we have an awesome website that Lindsay built. It's kulaproject.org, Kula project.org. Or on Instagram at Kula Project. We have a lot of stuff going on. We say confidently this is the best Kula's ever been. Like, if you've liked us before, you're really going to love us now. And if you don't know about us, we're really awesome. And I say that because it's not all on me. Like, it's our team in Rwanda that has got us here. Right. And Lindsay, and I've just been the one that gets to take credit for hiring them. But other than that, they do the work. Yeah. So...
well, that's awesome.
Join us. It's an awesome story. These Rwandans are incredible. 2 of them will be here. We're bringing 2 of our leadership in the fall. We're going to have a coffee launch at Ponce City Market in November. And so we're bringing 2 of our guys here, and they get to tell their story and it from their point of view.
Well, terrific.
Yeah.
Well, you have to keep me posted.
I will. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks for coming in.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's it for another Good Gracious Show podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. And, do check out Adam's movie Z, The Beginning of Everything, on Amazon. And he's got some other credits. I'm sure you can dig it up through IMDb. But, and catch him. He's playing at Chomp and Stomp this coming Saturday. He'll be there, as well as some other amazing folks. If you want to see some good in-town, hometown, terrific chili goodness, Chomp and Stomp is a place to be, because that's where they are having the annual chili cook-off, and I think they do a 5K as well, and a whole lot of really cool people and musicians there in Cabbage Town. And then the Kula Project this month in November is doing a special event at Ponce City Market. So check their website, sign up for their newsletter, and get all that stuff. I thought it was neat that the really smart money on nonprofits, since nonprofits spend so much time trying to track money to serve their mission instead of being able to just serve their mission, is that they believe that charity will not eradicate poverty, but business will. And there's a lot of truth to that. So either way, two great folks and really interesting projects going on. So if you want, you can get the latest from Good Gracious, what's going on and when our next live show is at goodgracioushow.com. You can sign up for the newsletter. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter. It's probably GG Show Atlanta. Hug someone and be a good neighbor, and we'll see you next week.